Hey guys, today we're making sheet pan chicken thighs with a warm panzanella salad. This is one of my favorite weeknight dinners ever because all of the ingredients get layered onto one pan and they go into a blazing hot oven, and basically that's your dinner. So easy, minimal cleanup. So this is the lowdown. We're gonna show you how to perfectly roast chicken thighs. I don't know who we are. I guess I'm gonna show you how to perfectly roast chicken thighs with the help of my ThermoWorks ThermaPen. This is one of my top 5 favorite kitchen tools, and I'm gonna show you why. We're also going to toss together a warm panzanella salad. Panzanella salad is a bread salad. Usually it's made with fresh tomatoes. We're gonna toss it with roasted fennel and kale and onions and a garlic vinaigrette. It's so good. All right, so stick around. Thank you to my friends at ThermoWorks for partnering with me on this video. You guys are gonna love this recipe.
First, let's prep the veggies. I'm cutting a red onion into wedges. You can see I left the core intact because I want them to kind of hold together as they roast. Next, the fennel bulb. Trim off those green fronds and then slice the bulb in half. If the outer layer is banged up or tough, you can remove it and then trim up the bottom. But again, we want to leave the core intact because we're going to cut this into wedges just like we did for the red onion. And you want to cut them about the same size as the red onion so that they all cook at the same rate. And now for the kale. I'm using a Tuscan kale. It's also called lacinato or dinosaur kale. I just like to tear it right off the stem, and then instead of chopping it, I just tear it up into coarse pieces. Some of the kale will turn crispy, some of it will turn succulent and tender, and it's all gonna be so good. So we're gonna pile the vegetables into a large bowl and then season them up a little bit. First, I'm going to add garlic cloves. I'm not actually peeling these, just removing that outermost papery white layer because I want to roast them with the skin on. Next, I'm adding the zest from 1 lemon. You'll see that I like to zest kind of upside down. This allows me to see what I'm collecting, and that way I don't get too much of that bitter white pith because I can see what I'm doing. We're actually going to add the lemon as well. If you've never tried roasting lemons, you've got to give this a go. They turn sweet and caramelized. I love them, but even if you don't end up eating them, they're going to provide a lot of flavor. Pop out any seeds and then toss them in the bowl. Drizzle in some extra virgin olive oil, or you could use really any neutral vegetable oil you have, and then season well with salt and pepper. And we're gonna toss this up. It's really important that we evenly coat everything in that olive oil. If you need to get in there with your hands, go for it. Now I'm lining a large sheet pan with parchment. You could also use foil, and then spread out all of those vegetables into an even layer. We're gonna build the panzanella salad right on the sheet pan. So I've got half of a French baguette, just tearing it into 1 to 2 inch pieces approximately. You can also use a gluten-free baguette if you can't eat gluten. Now for the chicken. I am adding it into the same bowl that I used for the vegetables. I didn't wash it on purpose because why wash it if you don't have to? So you can use 6 to 8 chicken thighs depending on how hungry you are or how many people you're serving. I'm seasoning these with dried oregano. That's gonna add a lot of flavor, as well as paprika. The paprika is gonna give the chicken thighs a really beautiful color. Lots of salt and pepper as always. And then a little bit of olive oil, and this is going to help the chicken skin to crisp up and brown. So I'd like to get in here with my hands. It just makes it really easy to evenly disperse all of those spices. Give your hands a wash, and now we're going to layer the chicken over the vegetables and the bread. I love how this all just goes onto one sheet pan, and the chicken's gonna end up flavoring the vegetables and vice versa. So this goes into a blazing hot oven for 15 minutes. But we're not done yet. I need to stir those vegetables, but to do so, I need to remove the chicken so that I can kind of get under there. So just transfer the chicken to a plate and then give everything a stir. Some of the bread will start to brown and crisp up. If anything looks too dark, just put it underneath the chicken. That'll kind of protect it. All right, this is going back in the oven for 12 to 15 minutes or until the chicken is golden brown, the juices run clear, and the internal temperature reads 165 to 170 degrees. This is where my Thermapen is queen when it comes to cooking meat because it instantly takes the temperature of meats. Look at that, 169 degrees. So we know for sure these chicken thighs are perfectly cooked. Transfer the chicken thighs to a clean plate. You can cover them lightly and set them aside while we finish off the panzanella salad. So I'm gonna pull out those garlic cloves that we're roasting with the veggies, and I'm gonna take off the outer peel and just plop the garlic cloves into a bowl. Scrape the garlic cloves into a mini food processor or a blender to make the dressing. I'm adding apple cider vinegar, as well as a couple teaspoons of maple syrup, just for a little bit of sweetness. You could use honey instead. I like to use the food processor to get a really smooth dressing, but you could also just make this by hand. If your garlic cloves are soft enough, you can just mash them up with a fork. If not, throw them in a blender or food processor. Last but not least, I've got some olive oil and then salt and pepper. I always like to add the olive oil at the end if I'm using the food processor or blender, because if it's over processed, it tends to get a little bit spicy or bitter. Okay, our dressing is done, so let's plate this up. Transfer all of those veggies into a large salad bowl, and then we'll add about half of the dressing. You want to save some of the dressing for serving at the table. Now let's toss this all together. The bread is gonna start to soak up some of that dressing. The vegetables are gonna be coated with tons of flavor. Pile this onto serving plates and then add a chicken thigh or two right over top. And then last but not least, drizzle with a bit more of the dressing. You guys, this is one of my favorite soul-satisfying comfort meals. Perfect for a weeknight, but it's also a lovely meal to entertain with. Oh man, that chicken is perfectly cooked. The bread and the vegetables have soaked up so much flavor. You guys can get this recipe at FromScratchFast.com, and thank you so much for tuning in.
And yeah, I don't leave home without it.